Hey guys, it is Wednesday, May 15th, and today we're going to tackle a question that was asked to me yesterday at a school event, and for a high school that I went to, and the question is Bitcoin a good investment? And I want to answer this question, spend a little bit of time answering this question because I think the way you answer this question is very important. How would I look at Bitcoin as an investment? Okay, so the first thing I want to do is I want to just pull up what Google says if you ask it, is Bitcoin a good investment? So as you can see here, typed in, is Bitcoin a Google investment? I went to incognito mode just to make sure it didn't take into account any of the factors of what I'm looking for or anything. So this is what a person, if you type, is Bitcoin a good investment, you probably will see. And it says, first thing it says it's a risky investment with high volatility. And then it says, well, it should only be considered if you have a high risk tolerance and you already have a very strong financial position and you can afford to lose some or all of your investment. That sounds kind of pretty negative, right? If you go down below, it says, is Bitcoin worth investing in the long term? That's a better question, I think. But, and then there's later, cryptocurrencies. Should you invest in them? That's some of the questions that and then people start asking, why do Bitcoins have value, et cetera, et cetera. And then here, the brutal truth about Bitcoin. Bitcoin has failed. So I think if you go through this question and look at Google, you're bound to be pretty dissuaded from investing in Bitcoin because, right off the top it says if you don't have a super strong financial position already and you can afford to lose all of your investment, don't invest in Bitcoin. So this is really negative. I think it really it's designed almost to scare you from investing in Bitcoin. And I sort of have the opposite view. So, okay. So what do I think? What do I think? I think really the first question is Bitcoin a good investment over the immediate term or over a long period of time? I think that the time horizon really makes a big difference, right? Because what would be a great investment in general? I think a great investment in general is if I said, go buy Bitcoin, and then 2 weeks after you buy Bitcoin, it's up 10%. That would be, you'd be, well, Fred, that was a great investment. I really love that investment. And especially if it went 2 months after you bought it, it was up 15% or 20%. And then 6 months after you bought it, it was up, 40%. Now you would be like, that is just a great investment. I love Bitcoin. Fred's just the greatest guy. He told me to buy Bitcoin. I bought it. It was up 10%. Then it was up 20%. Then it was up 40%. It's great. Unfortunately, that I really can't tell you that because I honestly, if you ask me what Bitcoin's going to do over the next 2 weeks or even 2 months, I have to admit I don't know. Am I generally bullish on Bitcoin? Yeah, I'm generally bullish. I make a lot of Bitcoin videos that are very pro Bitcoin, but I don't know what Bitcoin's going to do over the next 2 weeks or even the next 2 months. I would like to hope that it would go higher, but I really don't know it's going to go higher. And do I think it has a chance of going significantly lower over the next 2 weeks or 2 months? Yeah, I do. Because Bitcoin, unless you catch it at the right time, it might drop 10% in a single day, and that's Bitcoin, right? Doesn't mean it's a bad investment. Doesn't mean you shouldn't buy it or own some of it, but it does mean that it is risky in the sense of if you buy it and you can't tolerate any loss, you may find yourself quote unquote stopped out of your position, or you may find yourself with a loss on your hands. So ignoring that, so now that we know that I can't time Bitcoin, do I think that it makes sense as an investment for most people to own over the long term? And the answer there is yes. And do I think? And why do I think that? Let's now go to a different chart. Let's go to the sort of the longer term chart of Bitcoin. And now let's look at this thing on sort of a bigger scale. So what do I mean by that? Okay, so let's look at this chart. Now, in this chart, sort of a chart of Bitcoin since 2015, 2016. And the y-axis of this chart, the vertical axis, is listed in logarithmic terms. So it starts at 165, and then it spends this amount of space going to 1,000, but then the intervals get smaller and smaller and smaller, right? So this is a logarithmic scale. But if we look at it this way, you can see that it's going up. It's going up more and more as time goes by. Now, if you had bought Bitcoin at this peak here, which is about 14,000, okay? Was that a good buy? Well, not really if you ended up selling it right here at 3,500, right? You bought it at 1,400, 14,000, you sold it at 3,500. That would be terrible, right? So you have a very, if you bought it there and you were going to have to face 80% decline from that point, or 75% decline from that point to that point, you lose 2/3 of your money. Well, do you lose 2/3? Well, no, not really, because if you held it, not even that long, just you held it for 3 years, okay, all of a sudden, that 14,000 is now 64,000, okay? Well, you basically quadrupled your money in just 3 years, right? That's an amazing return. So I would say if you bought here at the peak at 13,600 and you sold up here, okay, you would have quadrupled your money. I would say that's a very good investment, right? So what have we discovered? Now, what we've really identified is that in Bitcoin, if you look at this thing over a fairly long period of time, historically, you've done very, very well. Is it always going to be the case that it's going to go up? No, we don't know. But I can tell you that if you look over the long term, and I'm going to zoom out even more here, right? This thing has gone straight up. I mean, it's gone up. Now, if you look at it in log terms, that's a separate story that you get this beautiful power law. I don't want to confuse you right now. This video is sort of meant for people who don't own Bitcoin, don't understand power laws or any of these things. But what I'm trying to say is I do think it's a very good investment, as long as you have at least a 3 or 4 year time horizon, because you don't know if you're going to be in one of these situations or if you're just going to buy it and you're just going to come in, and catch one of these moves up, right? So, I think we're kind of in one of these kind of moves up right now. I don't know for sure, right? There have been fake outs. You could be there and then all of a sudden you go there. You could be there and all of a sudden you go there, right? So we don't know. Hindsight is 20/20. So we don't know. We don't know the future. But is this kind of an investment that only the super wealthy, only people who have an enormous appetite for risk should own? No. In my opinion, this is an asset that everybody should own, with one caveat. With one caveat is, if you need the money, right? If you need the money, if you may need the money in a year, in 2 years, probably not a good investment, right? You have to have, not that you can afford to lose the money, but you have to be able to afford to wait, right? So what do I mean by that? Let's suppose you have a very stable job, right? And you expect that you're going to be around, you're going to have a source of income, and all of a sudden you hit something like this pocket here, and things start going down. Well, you don't have to sell. Nobody's forcing you to sell your Bitcoin, right? So you can hodl through, hold on for dear life, right through this decline, and then you're back up here. You're in good shape. On the other hand, if you're here and you lose your job here and you need to start selling your Bitcoin, you're going to be forced to sell your Bitcoin, right? So what I would recommend in general is don't go all in the sense that you have zero cushion, you have zero defense. If something bad happens to you, you're going to be selling your Bitcoin at the worst possible point. I don't think it's worth it. Even if you love Bitcoin as much as me, don't go 100% in Bitcoin. Get some margin of safety, some buffer that if things don't go your way, you're not going to be forced to sell your Bitcoin. But if you have a sufficient buffer, meaning you have a certain amount of some savings that you can afford to hold for 4 years, 3 years, if necessary, right? Or you have a very steady stream of income, a job, some kind of income stream that you have that allows you to be a little bit more aggressive, right? Then I would say go for it and study it, make sure you really understand it, because the other thing is you're going to have the gumption to suffer through drawdowns like this. You can't time these things. If you're going to hold it for a significant amount of time, you're going to have to hold it through at least one of these bear markets. Now, you can sort of try to trim your holdings at the top and then buy more at the bottom. That's not super tax efficient way to do it. It's really hard. The timing of these things can be very, very tricky. I don't recommend it, or I certainly wouldn't recommend it for the majority of your holdings. I would just say just hold it. That's the best way, the most tax efficient way, is just to plain hold it. But in general, you're going to have to go through these psychological things, which are very difficult. And so, part of the exercise of is it a good investment is it a good investment for you? Are you the kind of person who understands Bitcoin well enough and who's done a little bit of research and really gets your head around this asset that you can hold it for 3-4 years right through a bear market? And if that's the case, then great. Congratulations. Welcome to the world of hodlers. You are a Bitcoiner. Anyways, that's my little video today on is Bitcoin a great investment? I hope you got something out of this video. If you like my content, just hit subscribe. Really means a lot to me. It enables me to get more traffic, which gives me more ability to get other great guests. And I love talking just on the camera like this, but I also love talking with guests. Today, I'm going to be on with APSK32, who's anonymous, but who has some amazing content. And, one of the reasons I can talk to APSK32 is I've got 12,000 YouTube followers now, and I have 65,000 Twitter followers, and so it's a sort of a flywheel. The more followers I get, the more interesting guests I get, and so again, thanks again if you do follow me, and really appreciate it, and good luck with your Bitcoin.